In the first chapter, in part 1, chapter 1 of Wilkie Collins's The Woman in White, we see that Walter Hartright, a 28-year-old drawing teacher, addresses the reader and explains that the story they are about to read is about a woman's patience and man's resolution. So remember that in the first chapter itself, Wilkie Collins, through Walter Hartright, says that this story is about a woman's patience and a man's resolution. He further observes that if law could be relied upon to solve every mystery in the world, then his story would be worthy of coming before a court. However, since this is not the case, and the law is still the servant of the long purse, that is, of big money, Walter asks about, or rather, Walter asks that the reader should act as the judge for the story. Walter explains that he will only narrate the events that he was directly involved in, and that nothing in the story is derived from hearsay evidence, but is all based on the experiences of the individuals involved. After laying out these terms, Walter announces that his own evidence will be heard first. Walter's first person address to the reader sets up this epistolary structure of the novel. He suggests that these events will show that women can be unusually patient and that men can be unusually determined, two commonly held beliefs about gender in the 19th century. Walter Hartright then suggests that his story involves a crime, but that this crime has never been officially recognized as such by a court. This, he says, is because the law is corrupt and works for money rather than for justice. The reader, therefore, will judge the events in the story and make up their own mind about who is innocent and who is guilty. Walter wants to be truthful with the reader and will only narrate events in which he was directly involved. He will use first-hand accounts from other characters for the events at which he was absent. This mirrors the way in which evidence is presented before a court. In the first epoch, that is part 1, chapter 2, in chapter 2, the setting starts in the last day of July, and it is a muggy evening in London. Walter Hartright, the poor drawing master who is in ill health because of the polluted air in London, leaves his cramped, stuffy room and goes to visit his mother and sister in Hampstead, which he does twice a week. On the way, he thinks about his plans for the autumn and how he is going to earn money. His father, who has been dead for several years, was also a drawing master and worked very hard to become successful and have some money to leave to his family. Walter knows he should feel grateful for this, but this mood is gloomy as he approaches his mother's house. Walter approaches at his mother's house and is greeted enthusiastically by his friend, Professor Pesca, who is an Italian, who Walter once saved from drowning. Pesca is an extremely short man who left Italy for political reasons and who is so grateful for his political asylum in England that he has thrown himself wholeheartedly into English life and customs. He is profusely grateful to Walter for saving him and constantly looks for a way to repay Walter for his help. Walter reflects that if he had not saved Pesca from drowning, he would never have happened upon the events that he is about to narrate. So, although living conditions in the Victorian cities improved throughout the 19th century, middle class workers like Walter still lived cramped and in unhygienic conditions, and the air in cities like London was notoriously polluted, with most of the smoke coming from factories. Walter's father was clearly a hard-working industrial man to save up an inheritance for his family on a middle-class income, and Walter feels pressure to live up to his father's example. Pesca's political history. Pesca, remember, is that person, the professor who was saved from drowning by Walter Hartright. Pesca's political history and his reasons for coming to England are unknown and slightly mysterious. Pesca is clearly very happy to have escaped from Italy because he embraces English culture so enthusiastically. This reflects his cheerful and optimistic temperament and shows that he is a grateful person. He is doggedly loyal to Walter, who once saved his life, and loyal to the country that has given him political asylum. Walter hints that Pesca will play an important role in the story. In chapter 3, we see that Walter's spirits are revived when he sees Pesca. Walter knows that something must have happened because Pesca, Professor Pesca, has tracked him down at his mother's house, but Professor Pesca is so excited that it is impossible to get an explanation from him. Walter greets his mother and sister Sarah and notes that while his mother is charmed by Pesca, Sarah seems to disapprove of his enthusiasm. Walter thinks it is strange that his mother is older and yet more open minded than Sarah, who is young and yet very conventional. Sarah cleans up the remains of a cup which Pesca has knocked over in a rush to get to the door, and Walter's mother tells him that Pesca has some exciting news which he could barely contain until Walter's arrival. Pesca meanwhile drags a chair into the center of the room and stands on it to make his announcement. He tells Walter that while working as a teacher of literature for a rich family, he has heard of a position as drawing master with another family and has recommended Walter for the job. Mrs. Hartright and Sarah are delighted with Pesca's news. The offer which Pesca has acquired for him tells Walter that the job is at Limeridge House in Cumberland, that he will be employed by a Mr. Fairley, and that the work will involve teaching two ladies to draw 4 months. Although Walter needs work and is grateful to Pesca, he feels apprehensive and reluctant to take the position. So Sarah and Pesca are amazed at Walter's hesitation, and so is his mother, and insist that the job is a wonderful opportunity and one which his father never had. Walter writes to Mr. Fairley about the job but secretly hopes that he will be turned down. He is disappointed when his application is accepted, but nevertheless makes preparations to leave London for Limerick. On the night before his departure, he walks to Hampstead again to bid his mother and Sarah goodbye. Now, Sarah disapproves of Pesca because of his excitability and enthusiasm, which is at odds with British standards of propriety and social etiquette. While older people are stereotypically more conventional and traditional than their children, Walter's mother defines this stereotype and is more open minded and less concerned about propriety than Sarah. Pesca is dramatic and theatrical in temperament and unable to conform to the rules of British propriety, which required people to conceal their emotions. Instead, Pesca creates a scene in excitement, knocking over a cup and moving furniture around. He has found Walter a job to show his gratitude for Walter saving his life. So, for a lower middle class man, the offer of a stable employment with a rich family is an excellent opportunity. But despite this, Walter feels a sense of foreboding about the position. This foreshadows Walter's role in the sinister plot which unfolds around the inhabitants of Limmeridge House. Walter feels pressure to take the job, however, because he feels he must live up to the memory of his father and, as the man of the family, provide financially for his mother and sister. Walter's anxiety about the position is so strong that he hopes he will be rejected for the job even though he needs money and is ill because of his unsanitary living conditions in London. Now, in chapter 4, Walter walks home across Hampstead Heath. When he reaches the crossroads after crossing Hampstead Heath, he suddenly feels a hand on his shoulder and is shocked to find a woman dressed in white clothes standing in the road behind him. She asks Walter if the road leads to London. The woman in white is asking Walter that does this road lead to London, and Walter observes that her face is pinched and thin, and there is something watchful and guarded about her manner, which is not that of a lady of noble rank, but also not that of a poor woman. Noting Walter's hesitation, the woman repeats her question, and Walter replies that it is the road to London. Walter apologizes to the woman and confesses that he was shocked by her sudden appearance. The woman then asks Walter if he suspects her of doing wrong and becomes panicked and fretful. She explains that she has had an accident and shrinks away when Walter tries to calm her. She tells him that she has watched him from the bushes at the side of the road to see what sort of man he was. Before approaching, concerned for her, Walter asks her if he can do anything to help, and the woman asks if he will show her where to get a cab in London on the condition that he does not try to interfere with her in any way. Walter agrees and they walk towards London together. On the way, the woman asks Walter if he knows any noblemen in London. Walter tells her that he does not, and the woman responds darkly that there is one baronet she hopes he does not know. Walter asks for this man's name, but the woman refuses to tell Walter. She then asks Walter about his own station in life, and when he tells her that he is only a drawing teacher, she is relieved and says that she feels she can trust him. She asks Walter if he lives in London and says that he does, but he will leave the next day for Limmeridge House. The woman is excited by this and seems to know Limmeridge House. Struck by this coincidence, Walter stops, and the woman becomes frightened and thinks that he has heard someone following them. Walter tries to calm her by asking who she knows at Limmeridge. The woman replies that Mr. Philip Fairley and Mrs. Fairley are dead and that their daughter is probably married by now. She does not know who lives there now, but says that she loves them for Mrs. Fairley's sake. As they reach London, the woman begins to hurry. Although Walter would like to listen to her more about Limmeridge, she becomes distracted looking for a cab.